Esther Chapter 8, Mordecai is promoted. On that day, King Xerxes gave the house of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther, and Mordecai came before the king before Esther had disclosed what relation he was to her. The king took off his ring, which he had taken away from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther put Mordecai in charge of the house of Haman. Then Esther spoke again to the king and fell down on his feet and wept and implored him to avert the evil plot of Haman and his plot which he had devised against the Jews, because the decree to annihilate the Jews was still in effect. Then the king held out to Esther the golden scepter, and Esther arose and stood before the king. We have a little challenge here with Maxine. Hope it's not too interrupting for us, but we're going to read God's word holding her while she stares at those squirrels up there. So, all right, then it says, Then she said, If it pleases the king that I have found favor before him in the matters proper in the king's views, and I am pleasing in his sight, let it be written to revoke the letters devised by Haman, the son, which he wrote to destroy the Jews and everybody that was in the king's province. For how can I endure to see the tragedy that will happen to my people, or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and they have hanged him on the gallows because he stretched out his hand against the Jews. The king's decree avenges the Jews. Also concerning the Jews, write as you see fit the king's name, and seal it with the king's signet ring, for a decree which is written in the king's name and sealed with his ring may not be revoked. So the king's scribes were called at that day, and it was written in accordance with everything that Mordecai commanded to the Jews, to the king's rulers, and to the governors, and to everybody there. He wrote a decree in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed it with his ring, and sent letters on couriers, and the kings granted the Jews who were in the city the right to assemble and to defend their lives, to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate any armed force that might attack them and their little children and their women, and take the enemy's goods as plunders. For one day in all the provinces of King Xerxes, a copy of the edict was to be issued as a law in every province, so that the Jews would be ready on that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. So the couriers who were mounted on their royal horses, they went and they left. Then Mordecai departed from the presence of the kings in royal apparel, blue and white, with a large crown of gold and with a robe of fine linen, to the city of Susa, shouted and rejoiced. For at the time the Jews had light of dawn, a dawn of new hope, it says, and gladness and joy and honor in each and every province, in each and every city, wherever the king's command and his decree arrived. The Jews celebrated with gladness and joy a feast and a holiday, and many among the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews and their God had fallen on them. So very good. It says this is the only place in the Old Testament that refers to a conversion to Judaism. Before, a person was a Jew if he or she was born so, and now it appears as a religion to which one could convert. So very interesting. All right, so we're going to see what they do here as they continue on, if they're able to fight back, which I think they will. So we'll see you tomorrow.